I'm Steve Bassett. What is your name, sir?
Byron Wagner.
Byron Wagner. And you, man? Mirage? Marav? A geek. Beautiful name, yes, sir.
Brad Gardner.
All right, Brad. Okay. Oh, I got to turn this. Off. Hang on. At 7:30 tonight, there is a panel that's going to be pretty intense. I hope you can come to that because, yeah, I mean, this is. We'll talk about some stuff, but that's going to be huge. All right, let me just get this out. And do not disturb. Thank you. All right, good. Boom. And your name?
Orem. O-R-A-M.
Okay, Orem. Okay. As I pointed out in the write-up, and when it comes to workshops, I don't want to do a lecture. I want to talk to people. I want to hear what they have to say. Feel free to come to the front, sir. Right? You can't hide out back there. I'm not going to let you. You got to come up here. You got to give me your name, your business card. Right? I want to see a birth certificate, identification, vaccination status, whatever. Okay, sit back there, but I'm going to bug you. Oh, you're the money taker. Oh, you're. I'm sorry. You're the volunteer staff. There's 140 volunteers that actually service this event every year, pay their own way here, pay for their own room somewhere, just to be able to hang out and be part of this because the issue is so important to them. It's really good. So, okay, so we got the panel at 7:30. And that's in the big room, all right. And then I do have a lecture tomorrow morning at 8:30 for those of you that don't party too late tonight. And that's going to be over at the Endeavor Room. And that's going to be weird. It's going to be very weird. That's all I can tell you. It's going to be weird. Because you're going to be going to a standard lecture, here we go, and then suddenly it's going to get weird. You're going to go, oh, this could be interesting. Or not. But that's my lecture. Only 6 slides. I know a lot of people go, oh, I wanted so many more. Other people go, oh, thank God. I did a presentation in Australia once, 203 slides. Okay, I averaged one every 15 seconds. It was my personal record. And I don't know if people liked it or not. They might have, right? It's just moving and whatever. But ultimately, I'm thinking, why am I putting all these things up that they have to look at when they could be looking at me the whole time? You know, really, this is my time. They should be looking at me, not that stuff. So I don't have so many slides anymore. All right. What we're going to be getting into at the panel, I'm going to get into tomorrow, is the fact that the government's policy of not telling us the truth or informing us about this is about to end, finally. All right. Even in the last days of the Civil Rights Movement, 1963, 64, there were still people in the community of African Americans that said they'll never sign that bill. There's no way they're going to sign a Civil Rights Act. It ain't going to pass. They can put one in the House, they put one in the Senate. They're not going to pass it. This is never going to happen. But in fact, it did. That long era of that, at least, was over. Started in 1775 after Reconstruction failed, and then finally the Civil Rights Act, 64, followed shortly thereafter by the Voting Rights Act, which was obviously not the end of issues for people of color, but it was a major milestone. The arc of justice, the arc of the universe is long, right, and bends towards justice. Yeah, I get it. I'm interested in bending that arc in closer. Right? I'm all for having an arc of the universe that actually bends more quickly than is indicated in that maxim. And the reason that I want that is because we're running out of time. The Civil Rights Movement was never running out of time. No problem. Just keep at it. Eventually, you're going to get some justice. You're going to get a Civil Rights Act. What we're facing with now has kind of a shelf life on it. We don't have much more time.
Why do you say that?
Nuclear war. Okay? Nuclear war kind of severs everything. There's no more plans after that. Though you can put everything you've learned from watching 254 episodes of The Walking Dead to good use, right? As well as some other fine apocalyptic movies and series, right? Okay, so you can do that, but otherwise, no, it's ball game, and that's that we're facing. But we're also facing a host of other, how would you say, what's the word they usually use? It's like tipping points, where you can't go back. And this is not so much our fault. It's just that we created this world is what we have. This is what billions of humans have created over many, 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 many years. And now it's gotten incredibly complicated, incredibly crowded, incredibly under pressure, yada, 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 yada. And we have all these technological trends that are zooming up as fast as the scientists and the brilliant among us can do, without any consideration of whether we have the slightest idea what to do about it or how to deal with it, right? It's like, it's like the 8-year-old boy that has to take over the whole family after mom and daddy gets killed in a car crash. It ain't going to work. No way. We've hit the wall. And everybody knows it. One way or another, either up here consciously or way back here subconsciously, they know it. They feel it. That's why they embrace all the apocalyptic movies and shows and everything else. Why they're continuously popular, because it's a way of dealing with it. I can't do anything about it, but I can kind of watch other people deal with it, right? And they always prevail, sort of, in the end. And also why we're under so much stress as a society. Why, in spite of all the good things we have going, we have the largest consumption of drugs in the world and antacids and medicines and everything else, because this world is just unbelievably stressful unless you're living on Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean. Nobody's allowed to go there because they will kill you if you do. They're just all by themselves. They've been leading the same life for 10,000 years. They're happy as clams. At least that's what we think. We're not. We're stressed. So there is a need to bend that curve. How can we bend it so that we get there sooner? Well, I have one suggestion and one fundamental thing to offer. We have to end the truth embargo. We have to be confirmed we're not alone in the universe. Pretty big deal. All right? Once we do that, once we cross that paradigm line, so many things change and become possible that we could have what I call the golden age of reform, where suddenly things that absolutely could not be fixed are, ooh, that's fixable, or people that would never come together are coming together, or a different type of thinking involving every aspect of global and national and even local politics is rethought. Because at that moment, we are now considering our planet, our species, our environment, and everything else in the context of not being the only one. And therefore, what is it like out there? And then, of course, we have a lot we're going to learn about what's been going on. And all of that will factor in. And a lot of people are going to reflect upon, well, if we're not the only one, and there's others out there that are flying around the galaxy, apparently doing pretty well for themselves. Do we want to be a little more concerned about how badly we screw this up? I mean, we could be there too, right? And our planet could be a much better place. And by the way, they're another species, and we're one species. And I'd be curious to know if their species are constantly trying to kill their own species, okay? We don't have that problem. We're the only animal on the planet that really doesn't have that problem. Even the ants that kill each other, it's different species of ants. We're the only species that actually will kill our own anytime, in any way. I don't think they do that. So you can just see all the possibilities. And these things will kind of filter into people's brain generally, but as the great media that we have built starts to deal with it, and they start to do the docs, and we start to see the books and everything else coming forward, it's going to start seeping into people's brains as they reconsider their place in the universe. All right? So that is kind of the essence of what I'm going to talk about. The lecture, it's the essence of what I do. It's very basically simple. It's not complicated, but actually once you go on, it gets really complicated. And it's all going to affect every one of you. Nobody gets to escape this. Nobody gets to go, truth embargo's over, okay, there's ETs in the world, okay, but I don't know. I immediately forgotten that. I don't even know about it anymore. I've just let it go. It's gone. I continue my life. Oh, no, no, no. It's going to be around you and happening everywhere for the rest of your life. Right? And you're gonna have to deal with it. Most people will want to deal with it. It's like, what could be more interesting? So this is coming. Everybody gets to play in this particular paradigm shift, except the most remote and the most brutally poor who just need to get from one morning to night and still be alive. And it is testimony to our problems that there are quite a few, hundreds and hundreds of millions of people, that is their existence, which seems, gee, that's not good policy. So anyway, so that's what's going on. So let me get going here. I'll start with any of you, but who has? Here's the question I want from you first. What is the number one question about all of this that definitely is there? Right? You're always thinking about it. It always keeps coming up. It's kind of bugging you. Who would like to start? Yes.
Given the history of the last 70 years of obfuscation and lies, which we all are aware of, what do you think that the chances are that it will just be a continual drip, drip, drip of disclosure, or can they not put their finger in the dock against the floodgate?
Perfectly reasonable question.
So is it slow? Is it, can they not help it? I don't know. It just seems like it's a crapshoot.
Mm-hmm. The fact is from 1947 to 2017, it has been a drip, 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 drip. Now, if you had a drip in your if you had a drip in your bathtub and it was closed, right? Meaning the water couldn't get out, and it dripped for 70 years, it would flood the whole house, probably a good deal of the neighbors' houses of the street. It would be an impressive amount of water. No, it's been dripping for 70 years. Now it's turning into a gusher. All right? So it is a gusher. Now, not everybody can see that yet, but many do. I can see it because that's all I do is look at it. That's all I'm doing is watching it all the time. And you have to know the history, right? If you know what a drip is, and you've watched it for a while, when it starts to get really going, right, and then really going, you can clearly see the difference. Not everybody does. The millennials right now are seeing a lot of things happening, and they're going, well, this for the first time, and it's like, yeah, oh, that's cool. Normal, that's what I expect, whatever. They don't have a comparison to compare it to 50 years ago, and so they are thinking, hey, finally the government has realized there's something there. I need to look at that.
Because they've grown up with media that has had it from a Hollywood standpoint.
Or they were just young, okay? They were born in 1990, 1995. Why should they know about Ruppelt and Keogh and McDonald and even MUFON started in '69. They don't know, and they don't really care. Their lives are such that, hey, they're cool. This is kind of just a new thing, and like the iPhone was a new thing, they adapted to that, and they will adapt to this. So they're fine, but they also don't understand that there's a reason why their parents didn't know. There's a reason why they don't know. And because of that, they're not overly motivated to make sure this drip turns into a gusher that turns into disclosure. So it is up to us, the baby boomers, and I am a baby boomer. I'm baby boomer to the max. And the next generation who do have a history of understanding this, to see to it that this ends. All right? So to answer your question, because of developments that started in 2017, we've had more happen in the last 5 years than the previous 75 years, or 70-some years. Unprecedented things, one after another after another. In 1966, the Congress, under strong impetus from Gerald Ford, who was a very powerful, important congressman at the time, in Michigan, where a significant sighting took place, and Dr. Alan Hynek was given a press conference about it and just sort of mentioned there's other possibilities here. It could be swamp gas, could be this, could be that, but the public seized on swamp gas. He didn't say it was swamp gas. I'm a good friend of his son, Paul, and we're working together, actually. But boy, it was a big deal. And so Gerald Ford, one of the most honest men that ever set foot in the White House, those were the days. He said, look, we need to look at this. We need to do something. And he said, Congress, do something. So they held a one-day hearing. God bless them, in 1966, in one of the I forget which committee, and a couple people came in, testified, whatever. And then they held another hearing in 68, but this was of a different type, because I think that 66 hearing, in Gerald Ford's interest, tweaked a couple of people over at the national security structures, and they said, oh, God, this is just never going to end. Now we got a congressman asking for a hearing on this. Let's wrap this up. Yeah, let's put this to bed, right? We're the masters of the universe. We are the most powerful nation in the world. We get what we want, and what we want is this issue to be embargoed. And so they get another hearing to show a little faith. Embarrassed James McDonnell at that hearing deliberately, who then went and killed himself because, as it happened, he had family problems as well, and it was more than he could take. You have casualties in these things. And then very shortly, the Condon report, which is in the works, come out, says there's nothing to it, gives them the license to shut down Blue Book. Then the CIA members, openly known on the board of directors of NICAP, known, they knew it, no big deal. Hey, NICAP was filled with scientists and high-level people that were members because it was a significant force. And another reason why the truth embargo was getting pounded back then. McDonald and NICAP, Keogh. And so, okay, Blue Book is no longer needed because it's clear that the Robertson panel was conclusive. There's nothing, no there, shut that down. But then NICAP had to go. And so what they did is they charged Keogh with some sort of financial irresponsibility, threw him out, closed out all of NICAP's satellite entities, and then took the resources and the dues and paid it to themselves until the thing was gone completely in 72. Hey, it was a lot of work, and you paid for that, and that was it. It's wrapped up, it's done. They're home free. That's then. Compare that to now. Can you see extraordinary difference? Now, as it happened, MUFON then developed in 69 to take the place of NICAP. And I happen to think, by the way, MUFON is great now. It has come alive. It's in the 21st century. Love MUFON. It's paid its dues. But in the early days, MUFON was basically a safe replacement for NICAP. There has to be an organization or people to start to be suspicious. And so what we want is a NICAP light, very light, right? Not a lot of CIA people in there, not a lot of engineers, not a lot of scientists, just regular people having, getting together and going out and looking at sightings and stuff. And I think they had a lot of influence on the board of directors. And so MUFON became a placeholder and a buffer to the issue, so the government would not be under too much pressure. There was another buffer they created earlier than that. Right? This is brilliance. The truth embargo was incredibly difficult to pull off. And I assure you, all kinds of techniques were used. It was one of the greatest accomplishments, I think, of any government of a free country ever. Authoritarian countries run by dictators can do this kind of stuff. But our country, with our laws, unbelievable. 1958, the Space Act. All right, two things. In the Space Act, they made it clear that NASA can do nothing that has to do with national security. If you come across or interact with anything that has national security implications, you do nothing, you say nothing. You come and tell us, the Department of Defense, and we will deal with it. Okay? You're the civilian space agency, and you don't have clearance. They built it right in, and NASA's had to stay out of it and has stayed out of it until just recently, all right, when they got in to the pool with the rest of us, okay? But they did something else. In 58 is when they launched this wonderful concept called CITD, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which initially was kind of funded from NASA money. So it was kind of part of NASA because the funding was coming there, but it wasn't like it was a big part. It wasn't. But it was attached to NASA. And so they're searching for extraterrestrial intelligence in the sky, and they started up the process. It was early, but obviously it grew and grew and grew. It's still around. Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars have been spent on it. Now, the only irritating thing about that is that the people that set it up already knew the extraterrestrials were here. All right? So why would they spend all that money to have people go look for them in the sky? Or not, I mean, get signals. Because if people are waiting for the signals to come, and there's science going on, which makes you feel, oh, the scientists are on this, then you're not going to pay attention to the government, right? That's their buffer. We are doing something. You really care about that? Yeah. Join SETI, fund SETI, give them some money, right? SETI and I have had, well, there's at least one person in SETI and I've had some, unpleasantness, but I'm fine now, but he's never gotten over it. The point is that that was brilliant. And SETI went on and on and on and on and on, and it's still going and still talking about, boy, we're going to find a signal. Oh, yeah, he's still there. Yeah, I know. Hopefully he's not in the room. Okay. So again, you see, these are the kinds of things that were going on back then that made it possible for the truth embargo to last into the 21st century. That is not happening now.
Why not?
Well, because of what happened in 2017.
What allowed that to happen? Why did they allow it to happen?
Legitimate. Oh, sorry, that's your question. Okay, good, excellent. We're getting the good questions here. Here's the best way I can describe it, because I'm not getting, secret coded documents from them explaining everything, because they love me so much, right? And I don't have a security clearance. This is speculation, but it's quality speculation. All right, it's the good stuff, okay? It's like from day one, those in our government that had a need to know about the extraterrestrial presence knew. Right? Why? Because a thing crashed in Roswell that we didn't build. And there were bodies in it that weren't human. 4 dead, 1 alive. That's pretty clear. Nothing ambiguous about that. And so Truman learned, the Army Air Force learned, the Russian spies that had infiltrated Manhattan program and all the other programs they learned went right back to Moscow with that stuff, so they knew. China, I'm not sure about, because China was going through this nationalist thing and everything. It was kind of a mess, much less developed. But eventually they got it, you can be sure. Say no. And who knew initially was pretty limited, but and they had a lot more latitude to control. But as you move forward in time, there was no question that the government, in some way or another, knew that the extraterrestrials were here. And so, wow, that's awkward, right? However, it is the case, and I know some people are going to be disturbed when I say this, but by and large, our government and our national security structures are, to the huge majority, I'm going to go 95%, 97%, populated by honest, intelligent patriots, good people that don't want to assassinate anybody, don't want to surveil you or stick a chip in you or anything else. They're just good people. Most of the evil in this world is done by a very, very small group. The problem is not that there's so many more evil people. The problem is the good people have not figured out how to keep the evil people from getting into power and becoming king, chairman, president, prime minister, whatever the hell. We haven't figured that out, but if we ever do, we're set. One of those people turns up, we get them some help, we give them some drugs, whatever it takes, chill them out, give them a job to do, a trade or whatever, but sure as hell, we don't let them become the head of state. We haven't been able to do this yet. We're working on it, all right? But the point is that the vast majority of people are good people. And so as the era moves forward from 47, every year more and more people in our government learned that there is this extraterrestrial presence, all right? They might have had a clearance. They might have had a need to know. They might have learned it at a cocktail party from a drunken scientist. It doesn't matter. But they learned. Does that mean they ran to the press? No. It means that the circle is slowly widening. And it's much wider than just the core group that's working in a special access program underneath the Pentagon or something. It's just people kind of get to know. But overall, they accepted this is an appropriate policy. And legally, they couldn't speak. overall, it was pretty well contained. But the number grew. And it grew, and it grew. God knows where it was when I got in the field in 96. There could have been 200,000 people in the United States government just working in the basic areas that were convinced there's an extraterrestrial presence. Not to mention the fact that it wasn't against the law for anybody working in the Pentagon, CIA, NSA, or anything else to go to a bookstore and buy Stanton Friedman's books, right? Or Richard Dolan's books, right? Or read the Look magazine article about Benny and Barney Hill and on and on. That's all out there. It was in the public domain. They can read. They can think. And so the number grows, but the policy holds. And it grows, and it grows, and it grows. And the longer it goes on, the more awkward it is, the more stressful it becomes, the more embarrassing it becomes. And as I've said, one of my key phrases that I pound on is that the truth embargo makes fools of us all. Everybody. Nobody escapes it, including me, okay? It makes fools of everybody. That's one of the reasons why it's an unpleasant policy, and one of the reasons why people are starting to lose faith in government, right? If a government's making a fool of you every day, that's not breeding fondness, or trust, right? So I'm almost there. So what happened is that as of about 2015, the number was large, the number that wanted to end this but could not, right? 2015. They decided, some people in the government decided, let's do something. And I say government, I mean the military intelligence complex. And they knew they could not do it underemployed. They could not do it while they're working for the CIA or the DIA or anything else. They had to be out. They had to be civilians. And so they put together an idea that we're going to come forward in a civilian way. There's going to be an entity, and then we're going to start pushing this issue, and we're going to give it credibility, and we're going to help shake the trees. And that's fine. Would that have been enough? Maybe not. But something else they knew, and I assure you a lot of people in government knew this, and all over the military intelligence community. Back in 1993 to 96, Bill Clinton tried to get the files. He tried to end this embargo in a way. I mean, he was definitely trying to do something. Lawrence Rockefeller was paying the bills on that. There were research reports done. There were meetings, whatever. John Podesta was tasked to sort of front the issue to the Pentagon. And so this effort took place. Now, unfortunately for President Clinton, he was not the president that they wanted. And this is the way it goes. They wanted George H.W. Bush. I totally get it, right? Your military intelligence complex, you want the president who they named the CIA headquarters after. But Bill Clinton was not that guy. He was the anti-H.W. Bush. He was everything they did not like in a president. And so when he walked in the door, the attitude was, okay, don't do anything to help this guy. He'll eventually go away in 4 years. And then Rockefeller turned up. And so what happened was he was stonewalled, he was embarrassed. Eventually a $12, $13 million report was put out by the Air Force under Sheila Widnall, which put forward the completely bogus mogul balloon theory in order to shut the whole thing down. Sheila has never spoken about that. Brilliant woman, great career, but hey, made a fool out of her, didn't it? And so the people within the military intelligence complex knew about this. I knew that he was not happy about it, and neither was she. She was involved. Hillary Clinton was involved in that Rockefeller initiative. She knew about it. And the idea was, look, George Bush won. If he only makes it through one term, I'm running. If he makes it through 2 terms, I'm running. She absolutely intended to be president from get-go. As it happened, it got stretched out for 16 years, and she still knew she was going to run for president, okay? And something else happened over that period. The connection between the Clintons and the ET issue was never severed. And you know who kept that connection alive? Their number one advisor, John Podesta. Never got fully away from it, always there. As she moved toward the president. You know, too fancy about it because it could still be a liability, okay? Barack Obama had to be brought into it because he might take some action on that, but Barack had his own issues to deal with, and so consequently, that was never a concern. And so as we approach the end of the Obama administration, everybody knows who's running for president, and everybody knows who's going to win. Hillary Clinton is going to win. The polls made it quite clear she's going to win as president. Okay. Now, So you're inside the military intelligence complex, and you are aware that the wife of the president who tried to end the truth embargo or do something dramatic back then was totally made a fool of and stonewalled, and she's mad about it, and now she's heading for the White House, and the connection between her and the issue and John Podesta and the issue has been kept alive by people like me. They don't send me nice things. Nothing. I get nothing from them. They don't send any hitting people out either. I mean, I haven't had any threats, but nevertheless, they're not a friend. But I kept it constantly. That was part of what I did in others, Grant Cameron and others, to keep that connection alive. They knew it, and they concluded that she was going to disclose when she became president. She was going to push this, and she was going to get done what her husband couldn't do, which any president could have done. The president has the power to do this. But the question is the political circumstances such that they can, but they can do it. Bill Clinton could have done it. He might have had to fire people all over the military intelligence complex, get a whole new set of directors, whatever, and finally scare the hell out of them. Yeah, they delivered up the files, but it would have been political chaos. And it was early. But now she might be taking the presidency in 2017. And so guess what they decided to do? For two reasons. One, if we come out now, it will actually help that process. We will be part of it. But more importantly, we like our country, and we like the agencies we work for, and we think they're honorable. And if Secretary Clinton forces disclosure in the early days of her administration, she is going to get the glory of being the disclosure president. And the military intelligence complex is going to get nothing but grief, pain, and suffering, okay? Sure. Because it didn't help. Held out till the last dog died is what it did. And then that's not good. And so what if we get out there, whether it's before the election or even right after the election, but certainly right after the election, particularly if she's a lock, and she was a lock up until the last 30 days, and what happens then? She wins the presidency. There's a transition period. Suddenly, the To the Stars Academy turns up with 10 people from the military intelligence complex, high-level people, and they're talking about investigating this, doing research here, going forward, and the press is seizing on that. Meanwhile, the press has got a million questions for her because 400 articles were written about the ET connection to the Clintons during the campaign. And so it's really heating up, and everybody's saying, hey, wait till I get in the White House, wait till I get in the White House, and they go in the White House, and boom, off we go. And by the way, they came up with another idea. This was Tom DeLonge's idea, I believe, pretty much. Look, yeah, so let's form a company. Let's make it a really cool company, a public service company with entertainment aspects and science aspects, cover the whole basis, and we'll raise stock. And so these people who were taking a significant risk and are probably were not helping their post-retirement prospects, in terms of income, no problem. They were going to get some income, they're going to be part of this thing, and everybody goes to glory together. Except for one thing. She didn't win. All right? So that is the prelude to the answer to your question. To their great credit, and history will credit them. They stepped back, they thought, they watched the politics going on. It wasn't getting better, it was getting worse, and it clearly was not going to go well. But they made the decision, let's go, let's do it. And they launched it October 11th, 2017. I was out of the country. I didn't get back until February of 2018. Every one of my colleagues had already been on CNN 10 times. I was just like the guy. It's the 7th game of the World Series. It's in the 9th inning. My team is down by 3 runs, right? The bases are loaded. They're changing pitchers. I got to go to the bathroom. While I'm away, a grand slam is hit, and they win the World Series, and I missed the whole damn thing. That's exactly how I felt. Okay, so they launched it, and my attitude was, okay, what do you got? What do you got? Are you real? Are you serious? Okay? And what they had was a plan. And the plan was, yeah, there's this group, there's this organization, we're a public benefit corporation and so forth, we're going to do this, that, whatever, but a few of those key people were going to be part of driving the disclosure process forward. They were going to bring it home, all right? And they started doing that. And the first thing they did was they got somehow the Pentagon to release 3 of their gun camera clips and take them to the New York Times along with the rest of the story. It doesn't matter whether the things in those clips are ET or not ET or UAP, not, it doesn't matter. They were from F-17s. They were intercepts of unidentified objects, and they're not supposed to be released. That's classified. All that stuff is classified. They never released them before. And suddenly there they are. And of course, the New York Times is not just print now, it's also got an internet page, and so they put those 3 clips up on the internet, which is 1,000 times more powerful than an image in a printed page, and those 3 clips have now been seen hundreds and hundreds of millions of times around the world and every country. That's impact. And those 2 New York Times stories published together on the online and one day apart, December 16, 17, that was the trip line. And that is what set everything in motion that is generated in 5 years more than has happened in the previous. And so, again, it comes back to the military intelligence complex by what's the word I'm saying? Essentially, the word, I can't find that word. The point is, the military intelligence complex did not stop them. There was enough sentiment inside that they could not stop them. So they come out, nothing happened. They launched it, they had the video, nothing happened. They went to the New York Times, nothing happened. Basically, what you're seeing is the military intelligence complex and the collective has basically said, look, if you can do it, if you can end this, end it, right? Because it's not fun. We don't like lying to the American people every day. And so they weren't bothered. The Pentagon cooperated and gave them the 3 gun camera clips. And yeah, there was a lot of messiness and it got weird because there's a lot of people jumped on it and it's complicated and the internet is amazing and incredibly complicated as well. But ultimately, the Defense Department confirmed, yeah, those were our clips. Those were F-16s. We gave it to them, right? And they acknowledged a bunch of other things. And so while the 3 key people are driving this thing forward, the other 7 are kind of standing back. They say some things, but overall, they're there to support them in spirit. But the 3 are moving forward, and by and large, it has been uninterrupted, but there has been some bumps. The 3 people I'm talking about are Luis Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, and Gary Nolan. These are the 3 of the 10 that ended up as the point of the spear. And it's interesting, if you look at it, Luis Elizondo, military intel. So he's got that covered. Christopher Mellon, politics. He's got that covered. Gary Nolan, science. He's got that covered. Elizondo went out first. He's doing the talking. He's taking all the interviews and the podcasts and everything else and taking a lot of the spears, the internet heat, right? Meanwhile, Mellon is more quiet. He's behind the scenes. He's working Congress. He's bringing people up there. And Nolan is sitting back, right? Saying a little here, a little there. Because the scientists are going to be the most difficult. We already had a lot of the journalists. Getting the politicians was not going to be too hard. Getting the scientists, though. The scientists who for 75 years, in spite of all their doctoral degrees and all the massive knowledge they have in their head, have basically stonewalled the whole damn thing. Meaning, I can't go there. I don't know. I can't touch it. I'm sorry. You want to have a course in that? No, we can't do that. A research project isn't funny? Oh, absolutely out of the question. We're scientists. We only deal with stuff that we already know. Whatever. And we're talking about 5,000 colleges and universities. Several million professors have gone through there. Hundreds of thousands of scientists working at schools, and nothing. Right? Well, James McDonald was a scientist, and he really went at it. He gave lectures all over the country, and then he killed himself. And that was a message there, That's what happens to a scientist that wants to get serious about this. So Nolan was last, and he finally gets going. He goes on Fox News. He goes here, he goes there, and he's starting to get recognized. He's doing podcasts, Lex Friedman and so forth, and we find out what a cool guy he is, and he is super cool. Gary Nolan, man, I love this man. Okay, Nobel Prize nominee, genius, PhDs, pathology, neurology, mostly though genetics. and survived multiple bouts of cancer, which makes him what? Short timer? You know what I'm saying, in a sense? In other words, doesn't mean you won't live a long time, just means you know. And because obviously, given who he was, I'm sure that helped him beat that. Okay? But when I learned that from him, I realized, yeah, when you've been through 4, 5, 6 cancers and you've survived it, you don't give a crap about whether somebody is going to piss on you on the internet. All right? The hell with them. And that includes the government. And by then, Stanford had gotten to the point where, no, sorry, Carrie, do your thing. It's okay. And so he really did this thing about 7 days ago. He's on a talk show in New York, not some trivial, it's an important talk show. It's part of a conference called the iConnections Conference. High-level stuff. The guy's interviewing him. The guy doesn't know much about this issue, but he knows about Gary's involvement. So he finally gets around to that. And he says, Gary, well, this thing, do you think it's possible that extraterrestrials are here? Oh, yeah, they're here. And the guy, you should watch this video. The guy's kind of like this, didn't see that coming. And so then he says, well, how certain are you on a scale of 1 to 100% that extraterrestrials are here? And by here, he means they're flying around, okay? Not that they're at Starbucks having coffee with you on Saturday. And they may have bases, still not the same thing. Living amongst us, no. Are they here? We know what here means. And Carrie says 100%. That is a very significant moment in the history of this. There have been several like that. Bigelow went and said there was an extraterrestrial presence here May 2016 to 60 Minutes, which is a pretty high-level program. Laura Logan goes, and then he said it again. But Bigelow, though he was a billionaire, he was an independent billionaire, pretty good guy, but he'd been involved in unusual research for years, including with the government. Gary is not that. Gary is a very significant man, very well known, international, and he says it's 100%. Well, let me tell you. All right. And so that is why we are moving like that. And I believe the answer to your question is our own people who work in thousands of ways to defend us. And the reason we need so much defending is because we do so much offending. But whatever. The point is that they concluded themselves, how can we help this happen? And they are on our side now. And I assure you, there are plenty of people inside government now that are doing little things here and little things there that are helping keeping this going. In other words, the wind is at our back. Who's the next with a question they really want?
So I just came back from Dolan, and he mentioned you in that one because he has.
Did he insult me again? That son of a bitch. Oh, okay.
He was very gracious.
Good. Okay, good. Yeah, fine.
And I kind of take his viewpoint too of that. There's so much bad that the government has done over the last 70 years.
Sure.
Discrediting people, ruining people, hiding this huge secret.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it seem that the powers that be would be more motivated to keep it secret? And it feels like they are trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube as of recent with they muddled up the NASA? Not NASA, but they muddled up the congressional. At first, the Senate had it being very specific as to, and this is what Sheehan said earlier.
Yeah.
So the Senate passed this new anomalous domain, whatever, and there was a provision in that from the Senate side that had a way to enforce it, and then the House watered it down and took the enforcement.
Yeah, they took that out. They took that out.
They took that out, and then they made it more nebulous. It's all domain now, and whatever else. And there's not as much funding and whatnot, and they're not actually investigating, they're just kind of looking at these things. What's your take on that?
Oh, let me tell you. Yeah, you can come to my lecture, get more of this. But I've done several hundred podcasts the last couple of years where I've pounded this home. All right? I'm going to pound it home right now. Totally understand why you feel that way. But I think, I'm looking at you and I'm going, you have a life. I think you have a family. I think you've got maybe some grandkids or who knows. You may even have a career. You're doing stuff. You're a busy guy. You got a life. I don't. Okay? All I do is watch this go on. All right? On my website, I have now logged in links to 13,000 journalistic articles on the subject. Decent journalism, professional, not the silly stuff, not the fringe stuff, not the paranormal. Go read all 13,000 of them, and it will give you a more precise perspective. And so here is what is going on that is confusing you, and I don't blame you. First of all, the government's always been doing bad things, and they always, therefore, have a reason to not do good things. But yet they still do good things. It's remarkable. So that's not, past is not prologue. And as far as putting the toothpaste down the tube, well, let me put it this way. Have you ever tried to put toothpaste back in the tube? You can't do it. You can't even put cats back in the bag. You can't put cattle back in the barn. Once they're gone, right? And they're gone now. But the point that you most need to hear, and this is the thing that I will definitely be hitting in the lecture, but and expand on it, is, and this is interesting. Everything, what you are seeing going on right now is a process for a purpose, right? It has its own rules, its own protocols that are necessary for the purpose, all right? And that process is not about the government deciding there's something that they need to look into and deal with in all the appropriate ways, legislation, set up an organization, ultimately maybe hold hearings, things like that. Set up actually do some set up a department for the first time ever in NASA to kind of all these kind of things. Everything you're seeing is not about the fact that they have figured out there's something there. They already know. They've always known. So if they've always known, what the hell is going on? And for those that know that they've always known, it's a little easier to get it. Those that don't quite understand that, they're going, this does not make sense. And it's really comes down to something as simple as this. When you have lied to your whole country for 70 years, right? And like all lies, and we've all experienced this in one time or another. Sometimes you have to lie, but it only lasts for so long. Lies give you short-term benefits, long-term pain. And so when you lie for 70 years, and now you know the time is coming when you're going to have to tell the truth, that it's over. You can't get away with it any longer. Which in the case of crime, it's like, yeah, I've been lying and getting away with it, but fine, they got me. I'm going to go to trial. I'm going to get, I'm convicted. I'm going to go to jail. Oh, this is, and that's why they come forward and start telling the truth real fast, and they ask for mercy and all that stuff, all right? It's kind of like that. It's like you finally get convicted, been lying, but they finally got the truth, and now you're going to be sentenced, and you come in and you're contrite, and you're all dressed up, you're looking good. You just want to look as nice as you can, and you tell the judge how sorry you are, and you don't never do it again, and blah, blah, blah. In other words, it's PR job, so what's going on there, right? And maybe you get a few years off your sentence. The government's problem now is how do we end the truth embargo and not look worse than we have to? How can we offend as few people as we have to? In other words, what is the public relations ideal way to do this? And the way to do this is the way it should have been done all along. In other words, they've had several opportunities. The first one was when the press release got sent out for Roswell. They got picked up by the AP, and the articles were appearing around the country, and reporters were getting in their cars and very slow airplanes and heading that way, intending to interview every living person in Roswell. And Truman had to make a quick decision, really quick decision. He could have made the decision, look, let's just not say anything. Let's just hold on this, see where it goes, or let's deny it, but then reflect on it and act, whatever the hell. The point is, he made the decision, turn it around, hold another press conference, say it's nothing. The press will turn around before they get to Roswell and start interviewing these people. We'll get this under control, and then we'll see what we'll do. But he could have done it. He could have said, hey, cat's out of the bag. There's a press release out there. There's articles in the papers. Let's handle this as best we can. But over the next weeks and months, hold some quick hearings, get some people in here, show some interest and awareness of it. They're caught by surprise to some degree as much as the public. And the next thing you know, we get disclosure, I don't know, mid-48. Okay? Could have happened. Absolutely. Had the perfect opportunity. Didn't do it. The next opportunity was 4 years later. This was 52. So you've got this huge flyover. They've been handling the issue. There's been sightings and stuff, but it's not too bad, and we're okay, and people love us. We won World War II. The economy's doing well. And then the damn ETs turn up over Washington, and they're flying all over the place. They're being seen. Not everybody didn't have cameras, back then so much, and so there's no known photo, but plenty of recreations of the accounts. They're over the Capitol. They're over the Washington. What, sir? Washington D.C. Yeah, and obviously this got the government's attention, and it's like, oh man, they're going to do whatever they want to do, right? Even do that. So what should we do? Well, what they should have done is said, hey, let's address this. Get some witnesses in here. Let's get some legislation going or whatever. Let's inform the Congress. Let's hold some hearings. Let's get some information out. And then President Eisenhower will confirm the extraterrestrial presence in 1953. That's what they could have done, but they didn't. Whatever reason. Mostly it was national security. Okay, almost done. Mostly it was national security. Ultimately, it kept coming down to the same thing. We could do this, but the Soviets now have this many missiles, this many nuclear warheads on it. They're building submarines. China may have some secrets. And all they're seeing is a nuclear arms race and potentially a nuclear World War III ahead. And the idea of tossing this in the mix, they just couldn't do it. And so they didn't. Right? The next opportunity they had was the Clinton administration after the Cold War ended. And he gave it a shot. Didn't work. Now, we're going to do it now in the modern era, okay? So all that time has passed. And so what they're having to do is lie their way out of a bigger lie for a better purpose. And so what you're seeing is contrived. It is not what they know, it is what they have to say. There's a whole lot of things they will not talk about. There are areas they will not deal with. There's language they won't use. We came up with UAP so they wouldn't have to say UFO. And it was easier for them to say UAP if you're a journalist or even a member of Congress, and they like that. Hey, that's great. I can say UAP. That's language. Activism is awfully about language, all right? And so they started to move forward and get things done by staying in the lines. Nobody's going to just jump up and say, there's extraterrestrials here, like Gary Nolan, right? But he's not part of that process. He's outside of it. But the members of Congress, the journalists, the DOD, they're all couching their terms and keeping it careful so they make it political safe to move forward. And the Congress has responded. They got the legislation. They set up an organization, the All Domain, I love this name, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. It's perfect for a lot of reasons. Ask me about that. And they're moving forward. To what? To finally say, we found out what it is. No. The president, after enough hearings have taken place, 2 weeks tops, I know the witnesses are going to be there. It's going to blow your minds. It's going to blow the world's minds. There's going to be hundreds of millions of people watching it.
Are you going to be in Washington, D.C. next week?
I hope to. Oh, next week I don't know. I know Grier's got a huge thing going. I may go, I may not go. Danny Sheehan's going to be there, though. And then once the testimony, which has been seen by hundreds of millions of people, and the Congress is involved, and they're all acting well, it's nonpartisan. There's no reason to make a fool of yourself, right? The Dems, the Repubs, all offering legitimate questions. The military witnesses doing a great job. Gentlemen, please. Doing a great job, right? Then the president can't see. Clinton went after it. And that's not the way, he didn't want that. You want it to come to the president. And so the testimony of the witnesses and the legislation comes to the president, and the president finally says, my fellow Americans, I have watched all of this as long as my top advisors and members of key leaders of Congress. We've discussed it, and yeah, it's extraterrestrial. It's non-human intelligence. Bingo, disclosure, capital D, instantly, done right there, all right? That's what's going on. And so if it doesn't make sense, if it seems odd, it's because it's not what it seems to be. Now, for those that understand that, it's okay to carry two things in your mind at the same time, which I'm able to do. They've always known about the ET presence, but they need to go this process to get the disclosure. Once they get disclosure, then everything kind of opens up, and we stop being made fools of, they stop being made fools of. But let me be clear. 2 days after disclosure, they'll probably do it on a Friday, so they have the weekend. But Monday, right, there's going to be press all over the friggin' place.
I'm sorry, Stephen, are you talking about next week?
No, I'm saying 2 days after the president confirms the ET presence, which will be after the hearings, the press is everywhere, and the obvious questions are going to come up. I don't know who it does. It could be it could be the Secretary of Defense. It could be the president. Certainly, it could be the president's spokesperson. But it could be the president because there's going to be huge pressure to give multiple press conferences. Mr. President, did the United States government know about this ET thing before 2017? Yeah. How far back? 1946, 45? Really? Wow. Why didn't you? Why did the government not acknowledge that? National security. Simple. That's it. National security. Well, okay, I can get that. The Cold War, all that. And so, okay, let's move forward. What have you got? That's what's going to happen. But that's not the only tough question. There's a lot more of them. And do you know about contact? Yes. Really? You knew about it all along? Why didn't you stop it? We can't. Nothing we could do. Oh, boy, that's awkward. Have you simulated contact or abductions in order to try to get information from civilians? Yeah. Oh, that's awkward. You see where I'm going here?
The president won't, he won't know any of that.
Oh, the president, no, with disclosure? The president already knows there's an extraterrestrial presence, okay. In terms of the granular aspects of but after disclosure, he's going to get it real fast. They'll be briefing him like crazy because he cannot go out and say stupid stuff. The tolerance for stupid stuff from the public is going to go to zero. And so all these tough questions are going to come. But guess what? Because they've done all the right things, because they set up the department, and because they've made some interesting statements, and because they passed legislation, and because the stigma's gone, and they're showing some respect to us, people will say, hey, okay, look, we spot you that, okay? Let's move forward. So this is a public relations-driven extrication process in which they have to follow certain rules to ensure that it moves forward in service to that process. It is not a discovery process at all. And once people get that, they can chill. Now, I know you've been waiting. Fire off.
Okay. Interestingly, I'm in violent agreement with everything you said since I walked in the room.
Whoa. That doesn't happen often.
I understand. That's why I'm here as opposed to in one of the other rooms.
Okay.
So given that, all of the ideas that have been floated for a while has not been disclosure.
Yeah.
The oil cartels, the government embarrassment, all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Those make sense for a while in a particular context. The 50s, okay. But given there's been lots of other embarrassments for the government.
Sure.
Bay of Pigs, Gulf of Tonkin.
Sure.
On and on and on. And they've come back around eventually. Well, I wasn't in office. It wasn't, on my watch, and it was bad, but, we'll cop to it now, and we're sorry.
Right.
So the thing that is of interest to me is the reasons that really do make sense. The story about Carter crying when he was disclosed and various other things.
He cried when he couldn't get any support from Bush or anybody else, and he realized that he had no power. He wasn't crying because he just learned there was ETs. He was crying because, oh my God, I had no idea. Carter was an honest man like Ford, and we just don't handle that well.
Right. So the point is, there are a few things that I could think of that would justify to almost any person on the planet a reason to keep disclosure from happening. They would be the paradigm shift ones.
In other words, they're scared of a paradigm shift.
Well, if the paradigm shift is congratulations, we're the farm planet.
Okay, all right. But in other words, a particular truth will come out afterwards. Okay.
The one that when people ask me why don't they, I say it's really simple. Okay? Imagine that this happens and that it comes out and the government has to acknowledge, yeah, there are ETs and their technology is 1 billion years more advanced than ours. And we cannot protect you.
Sure.
Why the fuck would I pay taxes? Why would I respect the police? Why would I respect private? So that, the civil society.
So chaos.
Yeah, okay. But the truth is that in the various tests and the things, the research that Rand did and so on, that isn't what happens.
No,
No. So it's not really that.
no, it's not.
So the implication is there's something bigger that is so freaking scary. Even Elizondo has alluded to that, obliquely saying it's really solemn, So I'm very curious.
Well, he has been oblique about it. In his cases, there's a lot of things he knows. Look, you want to, just the fact that they're making hybrids with humans is something to be oblique about, right? So he might have been referring to that, because some people are not going to take that well.
And he
All right.
specifically said the word that never is mentioned is hybrid.
Yeah, sure. So, okay, you guys are getting little hors d'oeuvres from my lecture, but I still want you to come. Okay, I want a full room. All right. There's basically two things going on here with respect to extraterrestrials: political and other stuff. Not very precise, but that's how I got it. And the most important thing about the political engagement is this: nothing else comes close. They turn off our nuclear weapons. Not once, but a number of times. They turn off the Soviet nuclear weapons. That is the most important thing about the politics. On the other stuff, the single most important thing is that they create hybrids. Okay, now some people say, okay, wait a minute, let me see if I got this. Yeah, they're doing this politics, and they're turning off our nukes, which seems like maybe a cool thing, but then why would they do that other thing over there? I mean, that's so wrong, right? I think they're trying to help us. Maybe not, but the sense is that they're all working together.
Well, not according to what Linda just said 2 hours ago. Talking about this guy from the DIA who gave her this information, these three competing groups on Earth basis of, the Nordic, the tall
Sure.
ones, the Nordics, and then these great type Africans that are at war with each other, and then you've got the tribaloids, and she went into all that.
Sure. Again, when it comes to these assessments, I don't jump in. My information comes from primarily just contactees. In other words, they have given hundreds of thousands of reports. They've drawn them, painted them, and they've talked about what they do, and that's my information. Others have more complex, elaborate theories. All right, that's fine. And we don't know enough. I try to keep it basic. If they're having a war with each other, well, wish we could have wars like that because they're not falling from the sky and things are not blowing up. I don't know. It could be more like a diplomatic thing. Look, it's possible, but contactees have reported being in craft where there were 3 different kinds of ETs in the same craft. And I'm thinking, one way or another, there's some kind of cooperation. And so the simpler point I'm making is this. The United States has diplomatic relationships with every country in South America and Central America and Mexico. Okay? Politics. And we work with them, and there's some treaties and things like that, and it's all fine and dandy. At the same time, American corporations, that's not politics, that's business, are mining the hell out of those countries, polluting their rivers, killing off people, scraping off the rainforest and everything else. But that's other stuff. Okay, so there's politics and there's the other stuff. And I believe the politics is about what we need. And the other stuff is about what they need. All right, which is kind of what's going on. We do politics with countries to try to help them. We do try to help countries. We start treaties that can help them or whatever, and that's for them. The business mining stuff, that's for us. And so you can break it down real simple, okay, that way. All right. So in terms of the rationale, I try to keep it, again, I always start Occam's razor. I start at the basics. What is the basic explanation? And in doing that, I like to tell a little story. Again, you're going to hear it again tomorrow, but hey, it's even better the second time around. I am kind of odd. You already knew that. I'm kind of odd. My father was in the Pacific with the Medical Corps and was at Guadalcanal. And so when the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the treaty was signed, the surrender was signed very shortly after, and then they started mustering hundreds and hundreds of thousands of troops out of the Pacific back home. It took a while. A lot of them went through Australia. So it took a while, months in some cases. And so finally my dad gets back home, and it's Mare Island. That's where he was. That's where you go in. And then it took a little bit to reassign him. They assigned him to Bethesda Naval Hospital. He flies across, I don't know, he probably took a train, got to Bethesda, goes on the job. Now, he's been in the Pacific for some time, and so he didn't waste any time to cruise on down to some nice, entertainment lounges in Bethesda. The Raw Bar, I think, was the one he went to, where he saw a very attractive woman, my mother, and apparently the courtship was very short. Very, very short. And I was conceived in early March of 1946. You see the math here? Drop the bombs. Father comes home, impregnates my mother. I am born of the nuclear arms race, literally. I'm born by those bombs in Japan. And so now, I gestate for the usual 9 months, and I come into this world 7 months before Roswell. And so my whole life is a polar thing between two poles. The beginning of the nuclear arms race and the beginning of the modern extraterrestrial era. And it gets better. Again, I'm not going to even have graphics on this because I'm getting away from that. You can't compete. I mean, kids can create graphics better than anything I could ever do. But in my life, my whole 76 years of fun and games, and because I didn't marry, I didn't do other stuff. I just kind of watched all this stuff, and I came to finally realize that these two massive historical things, the modern era of ET presence, not the ancient era of ET presence, which of course I know happened because I've watched most of the Ancient Aliens. I'm on board. I'm there. I'm sure they were there. Almost always treated as gods. That's not happening now, but the modern era, which really counts, and the nuclear arms race have been not only just moving forward in history parallel, they have intertwined like the double helix of genetics. They are literally connected. All right. That's one way, and there may be other ways. And so that's been my life. And so as I got further into this, I began to see it more clearly, all right? That, okay, the nuclear issue is key to this in many ways. And one of the ways is this. Look, you're a high-level person in the DOD or the Air Force or a high-level person in any of the agencies or even the President of the United States, and it's the early 50s, and you know exactly what's going to happen. There's going to be a nuclear arms race. Now, the question is, how quickly can we get it under control? Have a little detente, have some treaties, whatever. Just don't go down this road. This is madness, okay? That could have happened. They could have had an early detente. I don't know, when Stalin dropped dead, somebody else came in, who knows? But that's not what happened, all right? And so they're watching this go forward, and I know in their mind they're going, look, we are headed towards something really problematic, and it involves this confrontation with another ideology. It seems to be locked in place. Both sides committed terrible mistakes. Patton came out immediately at the end of the war and said, we must invade the Soviet Union immediately. That went public. That's why they cashiered him. Meanwhile, Curtis LeMay was advising the president to nuke him. And of course, the spies all got that back to Moscow. This is not good for relations. This is not a good thing. And so it was all going to hell. There was an Iron Curtain across Europe. Winston Churchill was the first one that brought that up in a speech here, I think in Virginia, at a Virginia University. Everything was going to hell. They know it was coming. And so look, we're going to now tell the world there's extraterrestrials here? Will that make it worse or make it better? I would have made the case it could have changed the course of history and made things a lot better, but I wasn't there. This is from this perspective. So they are taking the cautious route. Let's see where this goes. And if things get to a point where it seems comfortable, we could then bring this out. Okay? You know where it went? From 1947 to 1986? 86,000 nuclear weapons were made and stockpiled, and multiple forms of delivery were developed. Nuclear subs, plus more bombers, plus tactical nukes, plus cruise missiles, and I don't know, slingshots, anything way they could do it. And they're watching this happen. Meanwhile, it went up to 8 nations, now 9, that had nuclear weapons. Any one of them could do a nuke. You know, it's a small nation. You don't have maybe 20 nukes. You only need to use 1. And the general consensus was 1 nuke from any country, and the thing goes crazy. There's no way they can contain it. That's what they were facing as they try to decide, should we tell them about the ETs? That is the reason. That's all you need. You don't need any other reasons beyond that. That doesn't mean there aren't any. But these are smart people. They care about the country. They know how dangerous things are. And let me tell you, they are way more dangerous than you think. Some of you may know this, so I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but the average American has no idea how close we came to nuclear war. They have no idea. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I haven't come up with a good metaphor for that, but it's kind of like this. A person discovers by some crazy means, I don't know, late in life, that on 7 occasions, a great white shark literally went by them inches away while they were out having fun at the beach. 7 times, and he didn't bite, wasn't hungry, okay? I think, oh, wow, man, wow. And they probably go right back in the water. We've had nuclear war right here, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. We barely missed. There have been several that are well known. Some happened in the Soviet Union, some happened here. The Cuban Missile Crisis, of course, is the big one, right? And it turns out that we came very close to nuclear weapons, nuclear war, because we only learned later that there was more to the picture than what we saw on our televisions. There were already tactical nukes and the ability to use nukes in Cuba. They were already there. If we had invaded, they would have used them. A sub almost launched a nuclear torpedo. At the last minute, he wouldn't do it. That's why we're here. I watched it on TV, but they didn't tell us that, right? They don't want to upset us. No need to know. So how many times can you dodge that bullet before it's over? And then the ability to make miniature nukes, suitcase nukes, tactical shells. So guess what? And it leads to this. And this is so ironic, I can't believe it. It is the circle being closed in my life. Well, I hope it's not totally closed in my life. But if I drop dead tomorrow, it's a perfect circle. Here is what I'm saying. As it happens, after all of this, we arrive in essentially, we'll call it 2023. I don't want to get too specific. And as of 2023, we are closer to nuclear war than we have ever been, because of a whole lot of reasons. I don't want to bore you with them, but you know what I'm talking about, okay? That's why the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, which have been monitoring this since 1947, now have us at 11 seconds to midnight. Okay? It started at 7 minutes to midnight, and it's gone back and forth, back and forth. Now it's 11 seconds. Not long ago, we were in DEFCON 3 in the United States. Most people didn't know it. We've been in DEFCON 2 in Europe for God knows how long. There's different command centers, different DEFCONs. I follow this on a site called defconlevel.com. Check it out if you really aren't depressed enough. Okay? And so, and at the same time, we're the closest to nuclear war they've ever been. We're the closest disclosure than we've ever been. How interesting is that, isn't it? It starts there, and it's coming to end there. And that is why, in 1998, I think it was, I came up with the paradigm clock, which I then posted and did a whole bunch of stuff with and whatever, using front page in a website that, my God, be embarrassed to look at now. But and eventually, I ran it for years and years, and I kept a chronicle, and I moved it closer to midnight, back and forth, and whatever. It's up there. I may bring it back to life someday. But it was a simple concept. Paradigm clock is not the doomsday clock. Paradigm clock is disclosure at noon, at midnight, right? Disclosure. Not capital D disclosure, confirmation from the president and all the rest of the heads of state. That's disclosure. And of course, midnight doomsday is a nuclear war. And through those 70 years, not 70 years, since I retroactively published it in 1947 and then tracked it in time, but obviously it was 19. The point is that, and I've said this many times, whether you liked it or not, or knew it or not, over the last 30 years, we have been in a race between these two clocks. Which one hits midnight first? Doomsday, paradigm, disclosure, nuclear war. Pick one, right? Which one do you go to? Well, if one is going to happen, if the doomsday clock hits midnight, the rest doesn't matter, right? So that's straightforward. That's pretty easy. And that's bad. That's very, very bad. But if the paradigm clock strikes midnight and we get disclosure, that has the potential to prevent the doomsday clock from ever reaching midnight. And so there's only one option here, isn't there? So you see the connection. So that is my explanation, fundamentally, why the truth embargo has been maintained by very good people all these years. Not because they know that ultimately the ETs are going to eat us or whatever. There's a lot of possibilities. But that is more than enough justification. And I've gotten reinforcement of that. I've heard things from various people that is the case. It's all in early 1990s. About 93, 4, and I don't have many contacts, but I have one that's pretty well connected, great guy, genius. He told me that in early 90s, the Pentagon gave the most powerful public relations firm, notice public relations, in Washington, Hill and Knowlton, a big job, classified, millions of dollars. They said, use all your skills to assess how we could eventually tell the public about the ETs. Okay? One of the ways to about that. And then use your skills to assess how the public would react. What are the ways it might go? And maybe how we would deal with that. That's a big deal. It took them like 5 years, I think, millions of dollars, and they delivered it back to around the time that Clinton became president and Rockefeller Initiative started, right around 96, I think. And so they've known about this. They've been planning for it. They've been gaming this out with their supercomputers, every possibility for years. 96. Obviously, they haven't done anything yet, but they are now, which is to make the point that, believe me, they're ready. It's not like it's going to be that chaotic. And the reason it's moving so quickly is because this is kind of what they figured was the best way to go. They didn't just come to this. Tom DeLonge did not suddenly set up a light bulb going out that, oh my God, we need to think about this and do something. But Tom, being an incredibly persistent guy who loves the issue, he was trying to get in and talk to people, and they kept going, forget about it. And one day they said, let's talk. Mm-hmm. A little more, you see the responses. A certain amount of that, sure. You can be assured that the military intelligence complex and all the important people in it were intensely watching what happens when the TTSA goes public. What happens? What's the reaction? Okay? It was fine. And then what happened when the New York Times went forward? Did the world collapse? No. Everything is moving great, which is why it's continued to go forward. And we would already have disclosure right now. And this room would be probably full if we hadn't had whatever you want to call it. It's a rather nasty virus, okay? And it did cause a little upset, all right? And as a result, it slowed everything down. It bankrupted tons of companies and people and whatever, and I get it. So that didn't help. If you take that out, right, I think we probably could have had disclosure by about early 2021. But it didn't. But the thing that I like to say is, in spite of some of the most bizarre political chaos I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I've seen some good stuff, right, in our country. Now, other countries, they have political chaos. They laugh at our stuff. They go, you think that's chaos? Come down to us. Come down and hang out with us for a while. But in spite of all this political chaos and a massive bad virus that hit the world, the disclosure process has moved relentlessly forward anyway, okay? And where are we now? 12, maybe 20 witnesses have been interviewed by Arrow. 3 years of legislation have been passed. An interagency group has been set up. NASA has set up its own investigation. It's going to report on that. And then I'll close, not close, but I mean, I'll go to questions here. The other thing I want to leave you with, if you can simply go, okay, well, this is a public relations-driven extrication process. The whole thing is being put on. What a waste of money. God damn it, why don't they just tell us, save the money? And this is a country that spends $6 billion on its elections. It's like, that's what it's going to cost to elect the next batch of people in 2024. $6 billion. $6 billion, it's cheap. And we get such better government for our money. The point is, in England, right, that's enough to cover the last 100 elections, right, in the parliamentary system, right? But okay, so I lost the train. I'll get it back. I'll get it back. I did lose my train of thought on that. No, it's before that. Oh God, that's a good point. I'm getting old. So, again, we have moved forward in spite of all of that, and so now we are at a point where we have all those things I just mentioned, and the only thing next to expect, as far as I can tell, is that John Warner is going to call for a hearing in front of the Intel Committee. It's not going to be a small committee. It's going to be the Intel Committee. In fact, everything is the Intel Committee. The House wants to have the first hearing, and they can. Anybody could call a hearing, right? The subcommittee for, I don't know, it could do it. But it would be a massive breach of protocol, okay? And you would be ostracized. This is total intel. That hearing could be called at any time. I know the witnesses that'll be up there. I know what they're going to say. All hell's going to break loose. The press is going to go nuts. And you have about 2 weeks of that, and it's over. The president will make the announcement. That's how close we are.
They've been a little preoccupied for the last 2 months anyway, with the debt ceiling.
Oh, yeah, again, yeah. So there's no way they were going to call a hearing until the debt ceiling was resolved. Now that that is resolved, I'm watching. I'm waiting.
And there were 3 articles on NBC News.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, if you go to my print media archive, I've got 5,000 up there since 2017. And when you read them, you're going, wow, look at all this coverage. Look at this, look at that, look at this. This is fantastic. It's all over the place. And you're going, well, wow, all these articles, why don't we still have confirmation? Well, confirmation is not just about how many articles there are. It's about whether the government is in a position to do it in such a way that it looks as good as possible, and it's structured and open and public. And that has to happen, regardless.
What would they get out of it?
Out of what?
That would be the thinking of the White House, for instance. What would we gain by doing this?
Well, the president will get the greatest political legacy of any president ever, one of the greatest legacies of all time, if he's first. Right? The other leaders will follow right away, but they will be second, third, fourth. That don't count, right? And that's a massive political legacy, all right? The end of the truth embargo, the end of having to go all through the crap they have to go through, the end of having to lie to the American people, a renewal possibly, the beginning of renewal of trust in government, all right? And, that is enough right there. But most importantly, it's like, people lie and they get good results from it. As I say, short-term benefit, long-term detriment. But the thing is, most people, if they're lying and getting away with it, they'll keep it up and keep it up and keep it up. I mean, they'll keep going until finally they realize that lie is going to be exposed. They don't need much more motivation than that. Once you know it's going to be exposed, what are you going to do? You can leave home, go away, and never be seen again, disappear. Some people can't take it and jump into the ocean. The fact that they cannot maintain the lie is more than enough reason to end the lie, right? Because otherwise, it's going to get even worse.
And we've also been prepared by Hollywood.
Yeah. 500 movies since 1951, total revenues somewhere between 100 and 200 billion dollars in ticket sales, product sales, TV rights, everything else. That's a lot of money. They're making a fortune, but not a single documentary on UAP ever in the theaters. Yes.
So, taking everything you've said as granted, the United States is not the only nation in the world to have these experiences or to come to these conclusions.
That's right. Sure.
I'm presuming traditional logic would be the reason that nobody else has jumped the gun is because of the United States' political clout and because there's some kind of informal agreement.
Yes.
Before that came up a few years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm saying, first of all, what are the odds that somebody else is going to jump the gun? Pretty minuscule given how rapidly it snowballs.
I think it varies. I think over time, I mean, as you go back in time, there were some windows where I thought something would happen. I'm not embarrassed to say this, but when I fled the country after that election, I went to the UK where I had a free place to stay, and Moscow called me and said, "We want to interview you." It was their most popular network there. It's called the REN network, REN, R-E-N. It's the most popular because they play all the cool shows, right? What's that beach movie? What is that beach show? Whatever it is. Baywatch, yeah, Baywatch. All that good stuff, right? And people love it. They eat it up. And it's entertainment, so it makes people happy. And so Putin loved it, right? Because, hey, it's making people happy, and he loved it. He paid close attention to it, right? And so they called me, and I gave an interview, about a 3-hour interview. Some of it turned up on one show, but I know that interview got seen by people. In fact, I actually had a meeting that was set up by one of my supporters with Lavrov's chief of staff. He had just left the job, and and he was really cagey, right? I mean, I could tell. He's looking at me, what the hell is going on here? But you know, and so I knew that and I'm thinking, well, okay, can I leave the country? I might not be able to, because in that interview, I talked about Putin being the disclosure president, that it was a possibility. No one had ever done it. No one had ever talked about Putin in this sense on Russian soil. And that's why I went. I said, hey.
You went to Russia?
I went to Moscow, yeah. By the way, I was there for about a week. It was fantastic. The subway is cheap. It was clean. They got Burger Kings everywhere, great milkshakes. I went to see Guardian of the Galaxy in Russian. It was great. Then I got to go home and see it again in English. It was even better, right? So I'm over there. Everything's fine. I'm hanging out. They love me, right? You see the dynamic between people and leaders. And so what was the point I was before you said that one? Oh, yeah. Okay, so he could have done it. In fact, I had been saying, and the reason I was saying is not because I got a thing for Putin, is because I kept saying it on radio interviews and all that stuff, so the Pentagon might hear it. You know, guys, you know, you keep dragging your feet on this, and he doesn't have the problem you have. He wants to disclose. He's going to disclose, right? No problem. And he gets the great truth-telling legacy. Putin, right? And our president has got to humbly follow behind saying, yeah, you know, we know about it too, and yeah, it's true, it's here. I don't want to be that president. Do you want to be that president? And so I kept reminding them, and they didn't do anything. Well, his chance of being that's over. He's gone. Xi Jinping is still a player, right? Now, I'm not talking that way anymore because we're on our way. I don't want to get out of the way. It's good. They're doing what I want them to do. But China, I don't know if you know this, but China is big on space. There was some talk for a while. They were going to make a case they own the moon. You know, what can I say? You know, probably set up a giant distribution center up there, and we get our stuff right from the moon and fly it in, right? Underwear gets even cheaper. Whatever. The point is that they're really serious about it, and so he could really change the landscape if he made the disclosure event, and it was him. China, the greater, older civilization, right? More sophisticated, and the superior race in the mind of many of them. And it's like, hey, that would be a problem, and it could happen, but they haven't. And the reason we'll probably win this one is because ultimately it's still a controlled state. And you have to be in line, and you have to go with the party line, and there's a lot of things you can't do. And sure, but of course, he has his own problems, but believe me, their economy is still doing great. When they have an economy problem, it's like, well, anyway. So telling his people that there are other civilizations superior to the Chinese civilization, superior to the Chinese Communist Party, and all of that, just opens them up to like, well, why in the hell am I putting up with this or that? It's a big galaxy.
The biggest reason why they just don't do it, because that revelation right there.
Yeah, we're not a controlled state. They are, and the same thing with the Soviet Union, right? Same thing, right? So I think that the nature of the government is the reason why they couldn't do it. All right, because it would make being a controlled state a lot harder. Yes, Jocelyn.
Why, then, after the
Wait a minute. You say Ted, you mean Robert Kennedy?
No, Ted Kennedy from Tennessee. But there's also Robert Kennedy, who
Okay.
I think is probably got the chops to beat Trump, and he can become the
Okay.
president because, after all.
Yeah. If he can make it to 2020, if it can go to 2025.
Over the file.
Look, as I say, this is going to be awkward. This is going to be a little scary for some. There's no question, and it's a throw off line, right? You learn there's an extraterrestrial presence. Some people want to lock their door. A lot of good that'll do. Yeah, but so I don't take a lot of stock in those kinds of things, right? I don't take a lot of stock in that. Here's what I know. Every member of the Intel committee has been briefed. They've had witnesses put in front of them privately. They've been briefed. They got a lot, and plus they've been briefed by the Pentagon. Okay, we see the public report. They get the classified report, and so these people have gotten a lot of information, and that's true of, I think, some certain committees in the House. And I'm not seeing them panic. I'm not seeing them, overly upset. They're moving forward. They're putting in appropriate legislation.
Isn't it the ridicule? Don't you think that's psychologically, that's the big hump?
No, that's gone. The stigma's gone. Oh, my God. Tim Burchett can't go 2 weeks without saying there's extraterrestrials here. And then he starts talking about re-engineering technology. He's now getting more TV coverage than ever. Tim Burchett, Tennessee. Very, very conservative, okay? And the members of Congress are watching and they're going, well, Tim's doing great. Before, nobody knew who he was. He's a backbench congressman from Tennessee, and suddenly he says I'm because he got tipped off. He may not have been briefed by witnesses or Christopher Mellon because he's on the agriculture committee. I don't know what he's on, but he got tipped off, right? Somebody and say, hey, here's what's going on over there, Tim. Right? They just showed us some stuff. And Tim is going, well, I'm not a potted plant, right? I'm a member of Congress, my God. And if I want to get into this, I'll get into this. And so he starts giving interviews. Yeah, there's ETs. He's been on 5 or 6 or 7 shows. And the other politicians are watching him and going, he's doing fine. And Gary Nolan just said there's an extraterrestrial presence. He's doing fine. And so each time somebody does this, it sends a message to more people. It's okay now, which means that the friggin' avalanche is starting to form at the top of the mountain. And if you want to stand at the bottom of the mountain thinking it'll never come down, go ahead, but it's not going to work. So again, this is how I take this. This gentleman should be up now.
Yeah, so the 800-pound gorilla in the room we haven't really talked about is what's going to happen when the energy paradigm completely changes, the petrodollar goes away, and it's clear that somebody's been making money for billions and billions of dollars that they shouldn't have.
Not exactly. Look, the government, I am looking forward to knowing what progress was made with any ET tech, okay? And I'm not talking about materials. I'm talking about the damn machinery, okay? It'll be nice to know. I think they're flying something. I believe they're flying a number of things. They may have somehow made a craft work, but they have figured out the tech and they've made their own versions. I think there's enough evidence for that. So there's one thing, which means that you could probably be getting, to Europe faster. Yeah. But the big question is, did they go, what's my time? 10? 50? 5, good. All right, this is perfect. The big question is really the energy issue. And all I can say is that's tougher, okay? Because if they've reversed engineered the propulsion and they fly it, but how do you know what energy they've done? They may have cracked it, they may not have cracked it, we don't know. But if they have, remember I talked about those tough questions? There's a question that's going to come up, because you see, post-disclosure, there's no more lying. Trust me. Well, you've got the entire internet social media world now focused on you. We're talking billions of people, everyone with a computer just like this, and they're on Twitter, and they're prepared to dissect everything you do down to the last molecule, and you to think, hey, let's lie some more. We'll just finesse this. They'll be crucified. They're going to tell the truth. Question. Have you made any breakthroughs in energy from studying ET craft? If the answer is yes, the next question is, how far along have you gone? Well, we actually have working systems. Okay, when did you have them? 1988? Why didn't you make those available to us? National security. End of it. There it is. That's it. Simple. And the millennials will go, okay, but have you got it for us now? In other words, disclosure is about the future, not the past. The vast majority of people are saying, okay, let's go forward, right? Some people will say, but first we're going to sue your ass, right, for everything, right? We want reparations, we want revenge, whatever. But the vast majority of people say, chill out. Let's go forward. New energy, we'll take that. Antigravitics, we'll take that. And so forth and so forth. And they know that. They know that and essentially, you know, they've been waiting the story out, and the baby boomers are dying off. The ones that kind of remember, James McDonald and NICAP and Keogh were dying off. And it's like, the millennials will be fine. So they have calculated that this will work, and it will. It's going to work just fine. And I'm happy. I'll take it, right? And I'll just say to you all, I got to go in about 2 minutes. Start thinking, I mean, if you want to, if disclosure, say, happened 2 days ago, and you're sitting in your living room, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You got any plans? Anything want to get involved in something? You want to engage it, join an organization? You want to make some money from it? Because believe me, a lot of money is going to change hands after disclosure. And that's America, that's business, no problem, all right? And some businesses will go down, others are going to go up, I assure you. We'll be much better off, right? And so think about that, or, just, hey, no, I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch the world adapt to it, and it'll be fun. But some people, I know a lot of people, they've got ideas, and I'm thinking, all right, start thinking about those ideas in the context of post-disclosure.
Do me a favor, in the time left, go down the list, just kind of a hit list, with yes or no in terms of whether you believe what the following people have said.
Fire.
Chaim Eshed,
Not sure. Little uncertain about that.
the Canadian minister,
Pellier?
yes.
Well, Hellier he knew that Roswell was real. He knew the ET was real. He said some other things I think he was just taking from books he read. And I'm really sad that he died like that. It was awful. Next.
John Ramirez.
I'm really impressed with John. In fact, I'm going to be talking to him over this conference. He's an inside guy, knows a lot of stuff. I don't know all the granular stuff, but I pay attention to John.
Continue the list, go ahead.
I could go on and on. I mean, well, I got to be careful here, okay? I got to be careful here. Let me just say that
Just be outrageous.
Wait, real quick, can you just end on what do they do with the hybrids?
Oh, okay. That's one of the big questions. That is one of the big questions. Jacobs has made his case. He's now fully retired from Temple. He's made his case. He believes it's a replacement program. I don't, but I don't blame him for that, coming to that conclusion. It is the $64,000. It's the big one. What do they do with the hybrids? And all I can say is I want to know. And you ain't going to know until we get disclosure, period. All right? No disclosure. And so if you're a contactee, if you have had any suffering from that, you get no relief until disclosure, at which time you're going to become very popular. Right? People are going to want to talk to you. A lot of people talk to you. And so, and I happen to believe, two more things. This is what I close. One, these are my speculations. If they come true, you email me about my genius, okay? You just, or you can send money, but whatever. At least email me that you have the genius. One, I believe when disclosure takes place, the contact will stop. They'll stop the programs. It's awkward. And two, I think in 2 years or less, we will have open contact with communication that is we are aware of, and they're talking. 2 years. If I'm right, we're in open contact in 2025. Is that good or what? Right? Thanks, folks. I'm done.
Thank you.
I have to get ready for the big panel.
Yeah, right there.
Oh, that one. Okay, is Carolyn still on there? Oh, put that back up again. Oh, it's rotating.
It's rotating.
Do you like my logo? I love that logo. Someone did that for me. It's very nice.
That's very nice.
Thank you, dude.
So the only discussion we haven't had, I'd like to hear maybe down the line, is the